when we start these meetings, we usually, don't really thank those that make these happen. So I really want to take a moment and thank Sarah Presley for her time in community services. We have so much that we talk about, so much work goes into the backside with Noreen and Sarah and so many people that help put this together. It does make it easier. It does make it flow. So I appreciate their work. And tonight, I appreciate everybody being online. And Councilmember Masuda, thank you for having us. This is a pleasure. I do want to start by letting everybody know that there's been loss of life in Boulder, Colorado, Atlanta. We've had our own community violence here in Pasadena, and so many people still suffering from those that were lost to COVID. There's a lot of reasons for us to come together and really support one another, work together, and work through the challenges and the problems that we have to create the unity that we need, and not the division that we often see across the country that's really hurting us and not finding solutions. So, tonight, as we talk about different issues, what I will do is spend a few minutes, Sarah, just talking about an overview for everybody so they understand what we're dealing with tonight. And we have had a 9% reduction in crime so far this year, which has been helpful to the large increase in violent crime that we saw last year. We've had already 3 homicides this year, shooting deaths as well. And so the latest one was just 2 weeks ago on East Foothill at Altadena, as somebody who didn't live in Pasadena was shot and killed. And we are investigating that crime. We are following up on all the leads and making progress. It will take us some time. Tonight, you'll hear from our detectives talking about our issues with transients around the city. We've had 135 calls in our district of homeless calls, of which 35 really focused around the areas of the markets at Whole Foods and Ralph's, and the rest were scattered around the area. We are about to kick off, as we've been experimenting for 2 years now, trying to move many of our homeless calls away from police responses to nonprofit responses. So this is something that we began in 2019 with experiments, and we're about to provide a presentation for the council and public safety next month for them to see the kind of work being done by this community with nonprofits, the fire department, the health department, the police department, and so many others under the direction and leadership of our city manager. So we're fortunate for that. And so as I close out here in my remarks, I want to make sure that everybody also understands we have some trends happening with catalytic converters around the city. We've had about 30 incidents that we may be part of the topics tonight. We've had some EDD fraud. As you know, it's been billions of dollars in the state, and we've had our own set of fraud here in Pasadena we are trying to deal with as well. And so with all that being said, I think it's most important to talk about as well is the San Gabriel Valley Police Chiefs that had a number of meetings, and as I chair these meetings as the president of our area, we've talked about the importance of protecting human dignity and promoting solidarity within our diverse communities and supporting the Asian community as they work through the fear of the hate crimes that we've seen across the country. We are also trying to plan a local community summit, not only to talk about these crimes, but also help people report crimes. Many times, like with Latino immigrant residents of the city, they may not have all the confidence to call and make reports. And so we want to make sure our Asian community has the ability and the knowledge and the phone numbers and the support to call and make crime reports, report crime that they see, and make sure that as one community we push through on identifying suspects that may be causing problems in our community. Over the last 3 years, we have had one Asian hate crime in our community. And so we do have some challenges in terms of having these cases not only filed by the district attorney's office, but also in these crimes being recognized by the Department of Justice and hitting a threshold. So sometimes it's frustrating for us. But number one is working together as a community, providing training and information for our community to report crimes and really support one another. So with that, I'll give it back to Sarah, and I'll be around to answer questions, as I'm sure we'll have related to many of the different topics tonight.
Thank you very much, Chief. Okay, so let me go ahead and get my my screen up. One moment. Okay, hopefully you guys can all see that okay. Just so you know, at the bottom of your screen, it says Q&A. That is where you can type in questions to us. Since I am presenting as well as moderating the meeting, most of the questions I will hold for the end for the Q&A portion. So to introduce everyone on the call, you just heard from our chief, John Perez. We have Lieutenant Mario Ortiz joining us over audio. He is the service area lieutenant for Area 4. And then we have Detectives Nicole Bloom and George Salazar joining us from the burglary unit. We have myself, Sarah Presley, Community Services Officer. And then we also have Councilmember Gene Masuda, as well as Noreen Sullivan, who is the District 4 Field Representative. So this should be a really good meeting. We've got a lot of great key players here tonight. Just 1 second, it's fighting me on going to the next screen, which sometimes it likes to do. There we go. Okay, so our crime analysis section puts together a chart like this every single month. This is for the entire city of Pasadena. These are part 1 crimes for the month of February. We do not have March yet because we are still living the month of March. So taking a look at this, stolen vehicles were up citywide, but service area 2, which is the northwest area of Pasadena, had almost half of them. 1990 to 2000 Hondas were the most frequently stolen vehicles. There was an increase in commercial burglaries from a low in January. Specifically, construction sites and mini marts have been getting hit. Now, this meeting is specifically targeted for Area 4. If you look at the map, Area 4 is the one in magenta, or I'm sorry, that's more of a fuchsia. It's labeled as East. It is everything east of Altadena Drive. In case you're curious, Area 1 is in red, Area 2 is in green, Area 3 is in blue, and Area 4 is in fuchsia, Area 5 is in yellow. Okay, so now these are part 1 crimes for the month of February, specifically for Area 4. Regarding person crimes, they were up from a very low January, but only just above average. There were 3 robberies in January. 2 started out as shoplifting incidents that escalated in 2 robberies. The other was a transient robbery of a dog. As for property crimes, also up a little from a very low January. Specifically, thefts and commercial burglaries were up. Shoplifting also picked up. Great news, there were no residential burglaries in Area 4 in the month of February. Thefts of catalytic converters are still an issue, but there is currently a named suspect on several incidents. Also, the South Pasadena Police Department recently made several suspect arrests and had no reported catalytic converter thefts last week. So let's hope that trend continues. So this meeting was requested by Gene Masuda and Noreen Sullivan because many of you reached out after there were 2 residential burglaries reported on March 8th in Area 4. And I have to say, I love how proactive the Area 4 community is. One of the residential burglaries was in the 3700 block of Landfair Road, and the other was in the 3500 block of Ranch Top Road. The 2 incidents were not related. I have a want flyer our detectives put together for the burglary on Ranch Top Road. On March 8th at approximately 12:16 p.m., the suspects broke into the residence via a window smash. The residents heard the glass break and called the police. The suspects escaped with some loss, which was later recovered in the area by a neighbor. Suspect number 1 is a male, unknown race, medium build, dark hooded sweater with lettering on the front, light pants, and a white and black sneakers. Suspect number 2 is also male, unknown race, thin build, dark hooded sweater with lettering and a drawing on the back, and dark pants. If you have any information regarding this crime, please contact Detective Abraham at 626-744-3953 or sabraham@cityofpasadena.net. You can find a copy of this flyer posted to all of our social media accounts. Since residential burglaries were the spark that ignited this meeting, I ran all residential burglaries reported since March of last year. I am going to show you the incident numbers, dates, and 100 blocks of where the crimes occurred. In March 2020, there were 3 residential burglaries reported. In April, there was 1. In May, there were 4. In June, there was 1. In July, there were 3. In August, there was 1. In September, there were 2. In October, there were 3. In November, there was 1. In December, there were 3. Moving into 2021, in January, there were 2. There were none in February. There have been 3 residential burglaries reported thus far in March of 2021. I spoke with Sergeant Bundy in the detective section, who told me that residential burglaries have been low ever since COVID hit. People have been spending more time at home, thus there have been fewer opportunities for burglars. Other types of crimes have been on the rise, but we will get to that later in the presentation. So you may be wondering how you can keep an eye on crime stats at home, and I would like to introduce you to a wonderful website called crimemapping.com. Not every agency uploads to crimemapping.com, but the Pasadena PD does. On your screen right now, you should see a preview of what the main screen of crimemapping.com looks like. On the left, you can enter an address, a landmark, or a zip code. It will then take you to a screen that looks like this. You can click on the different icons, and then on the right side, a window will pop up with the type of crime, the 100 block where the crime occurred, the date and time, as well as the incident number. It's not going to give you a lot of information, but it is a great tool just to keep an eye on what is happening in your neighborhood. Okay, I'm going to now talk a little bit about home security. Before leaving your home or business for any length of time, ensure all doors and windows are closed and locked. An open window is an opportunity for burglars. Windows at a street view and doors along the sides or back of your residence are typically most at risk. Strike plates are a simple and inexpensive way to strengthen doors, making it nearly impossible to kick a door in. Place a metal rod or piece of plywood in the track of sliding glass doors and install vertical bolts. This will reduce the ability of burglars to force the sliding glass door open. Unfortunately, suspects can break the glass in a sliding glass doors to gain entry without opening the door to prevent the alarm from activating. Consider adding motion sensing alarms and/or cameras inside your property, especially in the master bedroom and living room. Alarms can deter thieves from entering a home or business and reduce the amount of time thieves remain inside burglarizing. Alarm activations can also notify your neighbors there may be a problem. If you have an alarm, use it. This is regardless of the amount of time that you will be away from home. Should a crime occur, ensure you know how to use your home's surveillance system to expedite the officer being able to view any available camera footage. Also, make sure the timestamp on your video is correct. Remember, the time changes twice a year. This will help our officers and detectives a lot. Burglars sometimes use ladders or equipment in your yard to reach second-story balconies and windows. Do not store unlocked bicycles on your balcony. In 2020, we saw a lot of bicycles stolen from second-story balconies. Also, consider installing alarms and locks at second-story access points. Use timers on lights, radios, and TVs to create the appearance that you are home. Maintain well-lit exteriors, especially at the front and back doors and driveways. Keep shrubbery trimmed and away from entrances and walkways. Large hedges may provide a hiding place for burglars who are attempting to break into a home. Secure your valuables, especially firearms, in a home safe. Secure your safe to the floor. Thieves steal entire safes regardless of size. I have been out to a call for a found safe. It was stolen from an unknown location, taken to the parking lot of a restaurant that unfortunately didn't have any surveillance cameras. This safe was the size of a refrigerator, not a mini fridge, but a full-size refrigerator. I had to call a tow truck to come get it to tow it back to the station so that I could book it in as property. So even if your safe is the size of a refrigerator, still please bolt it to the ground. Next, apply a personal identification mark on your valuables. Photograph them and log serial numbers for future reference. Store this information in an inconspicuous location, not just on your home computer, because your computer could be stolen. As COVID is hopefully coming to an end and you start planning your next vacation, don't share vacation information on social networking sites while you're away. Never leave a message on your answering machine advising you are away from home. When on vacation, have a trusted neighbor or family member collect mail, newspapers, and frequently check your home's security status. You can also ask your neighbor to park in your driveway or parking place to make it appear that you are present. You can place your residence on a vacation checklist with the Pasadena Police Department by calling the non-emergency number or by contacting your community relations representative. That's me. I recommend making the request a few days before you leave. Also, please include a 24/7 emergency contact number. Be aware that burglars sometimes use newer high-end cars to commit crimes. This is in an effort to blend in with the neighborhood. These vehicles frequently have no plates or temporary plates. They also frequently have tinted windows. The vehicles may be occupied by drivers, male or female, that park the car while casing the area and then drive around the neighborhood waiting for the suspects inside a home to call for a pickup. Trust your instincts and call on any vehicle you feel is suspicious. Okay, so now I'm going to focus on 2020 crime trends for the city of Pasadena. Stolen vehicles have been high since lockdown last year. There was a big drop in stolen vehicles in December. However, stolen vehicles went back up in January and February. Vehicle burglaries were very high, but they have cooled down in the past few months. Remember not to leave any items visible in your car. If you leave items visible, unfortunately, you are a target. As the chief mentioned earlier, catalytic converter thefts have increased all over. For the city of Pasadena, Toyota Prius and Honda Elements are the most common cars to have their catalytic converters stolen, especially Priuses. This is because the catalytic converter is easy to access on those types of cars. Now, why are they stolen? The metal unit can be recycled for a quick few $100s. The recyclers can then extract the rare platinum group metals that are valued in the thousands per ounce. Unfortunately, it is hard to defend against this type of theft, but parking in a garage helps a lot. Most thefts are from vehicles parked on the street. Call the police if you hear a grinding noise at night. When suspects get caught, they usually have 3 to 5 other catalytic converters in their car that they have cut off during the course of their evening. There are catalytic shields that can be installed under the car for about $400. Considering a catalytic converter is $1,500 to $3,000, it is an option worth considering. Do not leave your handicap placard visible in your car when not in use. If possible, remove it from your vehicle or at least from plain view. Unfortunately, thieves have been smashing windows to steal handicap placards. They then turn around and sell the stolen placards. Garage and storage sheds have been getting hit. This is often related to bicycle thefts. If you have a garage, be sure to keep it locked. Lock your car even when it is parked in your garage. If you have a storage locker in a communal garage, do not store anything of value in it. That leads me to bicycle thefts. This continues to be a problem throughout the pandemic. Why? A possible reason is because fewer people are taking mass transit due to COVID and therefore looking to the bicycle. With indoor gyms closed until recently, cycling has also taken off in popularity as a form of outdoor physical exercise. Bicycles are easy to take apart and disguise the theft. Thieves are also not getting much jail time, if any, when caught. Locked bikes are being taken from bike racks, balconies, carports, and insecure structures. As I mentioned earlier, second floor patios have been getting hit especially. If you store your bike on a patio, you should lock the bike or consider moving it inside. Thefts occur day or night. We recommend securing your bike using a U-lock style bike lock or a heavy-duty hardened steel chain. They will provide you with a better security option than a basic chain or lock. You can register your bike with the Pasadena Police Department. Registering your bike aids in identification should your bike get stolen. You can register your bike with the records section of the department. They are currently open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. The cost to register your bike is only $4 and is valid for 3 years. Package thefts continue to be an issue. Our biggest month ever was back in May. We saw another increase in December. If possible, have a place out of view for packages to be placed. Even a plant can help block easy view from the street. You can track shipment information. Many delivery companies offer customized alerts. UPS offers My Choice and FedEx offers Delivery Manager that give you some control on when and where packages arrive. You can have deliveries held at a facility for pickup. For example, Amazon offers Amazon Locker, secure service lockers where customers pick up packages when it is convenient for them. If you know you won't be home at the time of delivery, you can have someone you trust accept the package. If you live in a building, set up a way to have neighbors hold each other's packages rather than leaving them in a common area. For apartments and condos, package lockboxes are also highly effective. If you're going to be on vacation during the time of delivery, you can request a vacation hold on all shipments. For example, FedEx will hold your shipment for up to 14 days. If you're shipping something of high value or just want to make sure items aren't left unattended, you can require a signature for packages to be released. Thefts from shoppers has cooled down a bit, but they are still out there. Be aware of where your purse is and if it is open while shopping. Next time you're in a grocery store, count how many open purses you see. Thieves are pulling wallets out and then going to other stores to make as many charges as fast as possible. With COVID and the closure of restaurants, thefts from wallets from diners has dropped. We had a couple late last year at patio dining, but with more people aware of social distancing, that has made those crimes dry up for now. We may see this type of crime increase now that many restaurants have resumed indoor dining. Be alert and suspicious of strangers, especially after visiting the bank. We started seeing an increase in bank follow homes last year. While this type of crime has cooled recently, it is still a crime trend to be aware of. These criminals work in crews. One or more persons will be inside the bank looking for customers making a large withdrawal. They then communicate with other members who follow the victim for an opportunity to break into their car or rob them. There was a Chilean crew in 2019 that was active doing distraction thefts as the victims went to their car. They would contact the victim and say they dropped some money, and the victim would then get out of their car. Another suspect would open the car door on the passenger side and take the victim's purse from the front seat. Sometimes they would flatten tires of the vehicle, anything to distract the victim. On that note, also keep your guard while pumping gas. It is not uncommon for thieves to attempt to steal a purse from the front seat of a vehicle. Online scams are always active. A few current scams we've been seeing lately include puppy for sale scams. Scammers post fake litters online or pretend to be an existing breeder. This means that if you aren't careful, you could find the perfect puppy online, send the breeder your money, and never receive a puppy or any follow-up communication. So what are the red flags? First, no phone calls. The seller prefers to handle communication by email and not the phone. A reputable breeder will always communicate you via phone or video chat, if not in person, before selling you a puppy. Fraudulent sellers are oftentimes outside the U.S. and may be hiding their phone number by only communicating by email. Copycat or stock photos is also a red flag. Photos of the dog or ad can be found on multiple websites. Sketchy payment is a red flag if the seller asks for wiring of money or payment by gift cards. Be aware that if you choose a non-secure payment method, it is highly unlikely that you will get your money back. Avoid paying a stranger using apps such as Venmo, as it is harder to get your money back if you don't get what you paid for. Paying by credit card or PayPal are typically the safest options. Last, the price is too good to be true. Research the prices for the breed you are considering ahead of time. Purebred dogs sold at deeply discounted prices are typically frauds. Rental property scams typically aim to steal money. They'll try to get you to send a security deposit or move-in fee without ever seeing the apartment, and they'll keep your money without any intention of renting the unit to you. So what are the red flags? They don't want to meet you in person, usually claiming to be out of town. They want you to move in without ever seeing the property. Even if you meet someone in person who claims to be the landlord, you should absolutely see the property before signing a lease or sending money. It is easy for someone to say they have a property and fake an online listing. So you need to see the property in person to make sure the place is really available. In most rental scams, the individual advertising the property doesn't actually have any way to access the inside of the property. If a potential landlord instructs you to inspect the property by walking around the outside at your convenience, this is almost certainly a scam. Grandchild and trouble scams target the elderly. The scam artist calls the victim, pretending to be their grandchild in trouble. They commonly call in the middle of the night. They plead with the victim to keep it a secret and not tell their parents. They often have a second person pose as a police officer or lawyer to validate the claim. They ask the victim to wire money for bail or other legal problems. Sometimes they ask the victim to purchase gift cards and send pictures of the gift card account numbers. Sometimes they even ask the victim to mail cash. If you get a phone call like this, the best thing to do is to hang up and call the grandchild or parents directly to verify the story. Okay, and that leads me to our non-emergency number. For those that don't already have it on in your phone, it is down at the bottom of your screen, 626-744-4241. That is the non-emergency number. For emergencies, lights and siren emergencies, for police presence, please still call 911. But if it's just something that you need, you want an officer to come check out, but it's not a lights and siren emergency, the best number is that non-emergency number. It is the exact same dispatchers that are answering the 911 calls, just we try to funnel non-emergencies through the non-emergency line to keep the 911 line clear. One thing I will, just one second, Ralph, can you turn that down? It's distracting me. I'm sorry, everyone. One thing I do want to tell you is if you're calling 911 or the non-emergency number from your cell phone, be aware that the dispatcher is not going to know exactly where you are. All they can see is the closest cell tower to you, and that could be a considerable distance. Every single year, they do an audit on each cell tower, and whichever agency received the most 911 calls through that cell tower will receive it for the following year. So if you're calling if you're calling 911 through your cell phone, you might first talk to Altadena or CHP. It is a very seamless process for them to transfer that call to us. But if you're calling the non-emergency number, you are going directly to us. Just be aware. Don't be surprised if the dispatcher is asking where you are, because if you're calling from your cell phone, they can't see exactly where you are. Okay, I would like to hit on the Citizens Service Center. You guys are our eyes and ears out in Pasadena. So if you see something that needs attention, like a homeless encampment or a graffiti, an abandoned couch or mattress or a street light out, you can report it through the Citizens Service Center. The number is on your screen, or you can also visit the website, or there is also an app that you can download. And what happens after you report something is that it generates a work order for the issue to be taken care of. You'll get an email when it's been taken care of. I've been using the Citizen Service Center for many years now, and I'm constantly impressed by how quickly they resolve issues that I report to them. Okay, and then I'd also like to mention Crime Stoppers. The Los Angeles Regional Crime Stoppers program is a community-based nonprofit organization that offers an anonymous way to report crimes. You will not be asked personal information. You'll be assigned a code number. If your information leads to an arrest, you may be eligible for a cash reward up to $1,000. Your phone number and computer IP address will not be traced. The phone number for Crime Stoppers is on your screen, or you can visit lacrimestoppers.org, or you can also download the Crime Stoppers app. I'd also like to mention Nixle. If you would like to receive alerts from the Pasadena Police Department, you can text your zip code to 888-777 to opt in. Typically, the Nixle alerts you'll receive is if there is a major car accident at Lake in California and our traffic officers are going to be shutting down those streets for an extended period of time, we can send out a Nixle alert letting you know to avoid that area. Or if there is a critically missing person, we can send out a Nixle alert letting you know to look out for the person. The biggest reason that I recommend Nixle is under normal non-COVID times, we have a lot of very large scale events in Pasadena. And if something were to happen during one of our events, Nixle would be our first line of communication to get information out to the public. That does lead me to invite you to follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as Nextdoor. If you guys are on Nextdoor, you probably see me posting from time to time. I'm always asking the department to give me stuff to post to Nextdoor. So please follow us on social media. This meeting was designed as rather a broad meeting for all of Area 4, but if you would like to have a similar meeting for your individual neighborhood, please contact me. I'm going to go ahead and put my contact information up on the screen. It is the very top one. So I'm Sarah Presley. That's my direct line as well as my email address. So I'll bring that screen back up later, but from here, I would like to turn you over to our detectives who joined us today. So let's see here. There they are.
Hello.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Detective Bloom, and this is one of my partners, George Salazar.
Detective Salazar.
I've been in the department for 13 years, and I've been with detectives for approximately a year.
I've been with the department for 7 years, and detective now for 5 months.
So basically, I kind of wanted to go over the process of how the calls for service and a report that's generated and then goes to detectives. So a call for service is generated and an officer will respond, take the initial report, and then that report will be passed through the system in the department, and then it'll come up to detectives. And then detectives will actually do all the follow-up and the leads in that report, whether it be video, DNA, or fingerprint analysis. So we actually get the report and we read it, and then we figure out which kind of leads that we need to go on, to include knocking on doors and finding out if there is video. And then we watch the video, and then we can make want flyers, like Sarah had shown you that want flyer for one of the burglaries that occurred in Area 4. So that's basically what we do. When we have DNA and fingerprint, we actually send that to the lab. And that can take, 3 months to 6 months to get back. So a lot of our crime is dependent on video, DNA, and fingerprint. And it's not always fast. So we try to do what we can in the fastest manner possible, but we have to also be patient because the LA Crime Lab is very busy. I did pull some stats for residential burglaries in Area 4 from January this year till now, and it looks like there's been 6 residential burglaries for this year. And I also wanted to go over the 2 cases that were recent where the occupants of the home were actually at home at the time of the burglaries. And it looks like on one of those, we did actually lift a partial fingerprint. So that is actually being sent to the lab and will be followed up on. And then on the other one, it was the want flyer that we got the suspects on video from. George, do you have anything to add?
Like my partner said, I feel a lot of times when we deal with the community or victims or witnesses, they want to know, they have like the CSI effect, you know, they watch these videos where crime gets solved within, you know, the hour of the show. And it's not like that. It takes time. Like my partner said, we do a lot of like the background work, paperwork, the boring stuff. We're always on our computers, you know, researching. We have to do search warrants. And a simple search warrant can take you anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to complete. And that's pretty much almost half our day. So, you know, detective sections, we run a 4-10 schedule. So we work 4 days a week, 10-hour shifts. And a lot of times, you know, we're just doing a lot. We have what's called the caseload. So basically, we just keep getting cases and cases to review and pretty much go off of what, you know, priority for the most part. But, you know, sometimes, you know, we're just stuck doing other work and it can prolong our investigations, other investigations. And a lot of times our suspects that we're looking for, they'll change their phone numbers, or change their, you know, cities, locations. So it makes it a little more difficult for us to locate these guys or gals. But yeah, that's, you know, I think that's when we talk to the community. They want to know, you know, what, you know, why didn't you do anything, or why isn't it happening? Why isn't this person arrested? And it's not that easy. You know, we have to go based off what we can prove in court. We have to follow all these laws and policy. So we try to make things right. So yeah, basically, you know, we're here to answer any of your questions, give you advice. I know Sarah puts on a great presentation of how to prevent crime, but crimes everywhere is, I feel like property crime is an all-time high right now. It's just, it's out of control. I've been here 7 years and I haven't seen it this bad. So, you know, we're here to answer any more questions if you guys have any.
Okay. So quite a few questions have come in, so I'm going to start going through the questions.
I'm sorry, Sarah, we can't hear you.
Oh, Sarah, can we get those questions and answers? Do I need to punch on that?
I'm sorry.
Oh, there we are. Okay, I got it.
Okay, I was going to read them aloud. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you from the room, but not in our computer.
Oh, because I think you have your computer on mute, because we were trying to avoid.
Oh, I got you.
We were trying to avoid.
No, ours isn't on mute. I think yours might be.
Well, yeah, because I was getting feedback.
Oh, here, I'll put it on mute.
Okay, sorry everyone. Okay, so I'll start reading through the questions. This first one, I'm thinking either the chief or Lieutenant Ortiz. A person wants to know, what is the current number of sworn officers in Pasadena compared to past years? How many officers are assigned to East Pasadena?
Thank you for that. Our number of officers.
Hey, Chief, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me? Test. I'm off mute here.
Maybe it's just
Test. Am I coming out?
There we go.
Sarah, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. I had because Nicole and George are nearby. I'm raising and lowering the speakers on my computer. So it was on my end that I couldn't hear you.
All right, Nicole and George, good job. Thank you for that overview. That was excellent. And so at this point, this year we have 234 officers in our department. That is down over the last 20 years, probably about 10, 12 officers, maybe a little bit more than that. Our challenge every year is trying to find candidates to hire and put them in place, not so much the number. So we usually work with 15 or 20 vacancies per year. We've been at single digits for the last couple of years, so that's been a really good point for us that our recruitment is strong. And when it comes to service areas, it varies. We have our day shift teams have up to 12 to 13 officers. Mid shifts have 6 or 7 officers, and the night shift has about 12 to 14 officers, depending on the day. The challenge with all that is the amount of officers that might be off on injury, or the amount of vacancies we may have. That number may vary, so we hire for overtime behind it. When it comes to the actual number of service areas on the east end of town, We might deploy on some nights a few hours, anywhere from 1 to 2 officers, sometimes a third officer for that service area. That's not enough. Last year, we reorganized the entire police department. One of the first things we did was move the number of patrol officers from the historical mark of 74 up to 90. Well, to get to 90, we actually have to hire for that many officers. So we are trying to hire with the officers now, and we're doing a good job of the quickness in which they are coming to us. We are a place that people want to come and work, so that's positive. Another big feature this year, we are working on changing our service area model. Why that's important for you on this question is that I'd like to increase the number of service area officers on the east end of town, as well as the west end of town. And we want to change up our service areas to make it more balanced, so all the calls are not sitting in just one part of the city. So it's going to be very important that this reorganization that we started this year will travel into next year. And we're really using a lot of science models and looking at the data and crimes to make sure it's balanced. Because I would like to have more officers on the east end of town on a regular basis on every shift, not just 1, 2, or maybe even 3. I'd like to extend that to 3 or 4 officers on any given shift at any given time. So that would be helpful for us.
Thank you. The next question, this is probably a better question for the HOPE team, but see if anyone on the call has a good answer. How are you managing the felony and sex offender transient population? Also, how are you dealing with the increase in misdemeanor crimes, i.e. package theft, mail theft, which don't always get reported?
Thanks for that. Now, I think one of the detectives might take some of that, but for me, when we look at the transient sex crimes, we are tracking our 290 registrants, and we try to do regular programs to identify who they are and where they're at, and making this awareness so we know where they might be. What's also important for us is understanding the registrants themselves and knowing what their violations are and where they live in the city as homeless people. That becomes very important for us. So our detectives track that the best they can. The most important part of this thing is really trying to get the reports made and coming into the police department so we can follow up on these. Those do become more challenging for us. So HOPE manages anywhere from 200 to 300 cases at any given time to track many of the homeless people. And they do have a very good feel for those that are more violent or a tendency to commit crimes related to sexual assault. That's a very small percentage of the overall homeless people that we have in our community. So it's important that our HOPE team and our detectives work together in keeping that communication going.
Thank you. Another person asks, have the policies of the LA's new DA made the job of the Pasadena Police Department more difficult?
Yes, we have. There's one of the policies is really trying to eliminate misdemeanor crimes as being punishment and looking for rehabilitation. That's a challenge for us. We are seeing an increase in the number of what used to be felony cases being referred to our chief prosecutor for things for low-grade misdemeanors, assaults, and other type of cases. And we are also seeing many misdemeanor cases being handled as rehabilitation cases. And so that's going to be a challenge for us. The problem we have with this, I don't think anybody's going to argue that giving people a second chance and not putting people in jail or drug possession, thefts, some of these issues. The problem that we have is that many of the people who commit these crimes are either having a behavioral crisis, they need help, they have a drug habit or a problem. And so when we can't arrest them and release them back into the community, we haven't done much to eliminate that drug use. They're free on a citation. There's nowhere for us to take them. If they really want to talk about rehabilitation, we'll show them how to do that. There needs to be places that we could take many of these individuals 24 hours a day to get them the help they need. So as we're releasing them from our jail, we are not seeing more crimes being committed the same night because of this. We've seen this with zero balance. We see criminals coming out and committing more crimes later on. So the drug usage, the addiction is at the base of all this, and we're not doing much to try to get rid of that at all. I don't know if the two detectives want to add anything to that at all with that information, but that's it.
Okay, I have a question for the detectives. Were these two incidents in Upper Hastings Ranch preceded by an attempt by the perpetrators to ascertain if anyone was home? In other words, did they fit the profile of a knock-knock burglary? Could you briefly describe what a knock-knock burglary is?
Sarah, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go?
Go ahead. I don't know what the
Right.
result.
Okay. Can you hear me? Sarah, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I'm turning up and down my volume so that there's not as much feedback.
Okay. So a knock-knock burglary is usually when we see somebody knock on the front door to see if anybody's going to answer. If nobody comes to the door, they usually go through the rear and look through the windows or doors, and then usually make entry through the rear. Having said that, the two incidents that the question is about is there was one of them that was a knock-knock, and they knocked 3 or 4 times at the front, went to the rear, went back to the front. And the other one, there was no knock-knock, and they were loitering on the property for a couple minutes or moments, and then decided to use a chair to gain access to the window and break it and make entry. So it doesn't look like either one of those was really certain if anyone was home. In the knock-knock, she didn't answer the door. So they were not probably aware if she was home. And in the other one, they made entry and there were 2 people home.
If I may add, we're seeing, these knock-knock burglaries were a little more popular with, I would say more popular back then. But now with the door ring cameras and all the cameras that, people are installing in their homes, you're not really getting that much of the knock-knock burglaries. You're getting more of the people driving around, scouting the locations, and really just driving your neighborhood at night, all throughout the day when you're at work. And that's what we're seeing more now. They're focusing on, are there any cars in the driveway? Has the mail been picked up? Is there a newspaper on the ground? Is there any indication that no one is home? Because once they come up on the knock-knock, they're getting close to your Ring door cameras and they're being exposed now. And a lot of times they don't want to be on camera. So, although knock-knock burglars are still around, it's more of like the amateurs that are doing that. The pros are just driving around your neighborhood, like I said. So a lot of times if you notice this, you notice a suspicious vehicle, keep driving around your neighborhood. It's okay to call our dispatch, our non-emergent line, and just let them know, like, hey, there's a car, description of the car, not known to the area, just keeps driving around there in our neighborhood. Can you do some more patrol checks in this area? They're looking for packages, Amazon packages at your door. So, yeah.
Also, to add to that, that's why it's important to keep your back doors and windows secured and locked at all times. Because if you are home and you're not going to answer the front door, just be prepared that they might go through the rear or to the rear and check for that.
Thank you. A follow-up question, of the home burglaries we mentioned, do you happen to know in the past year if any home burglaries have been solved?
Actually, I don't know the answer to that question. That would probably need to be answered by Detective Abraham. He specializes in the residential burglaries. What I can tell you is the 2 burglaries, the recent home invasions, are actually still being investigated. So we have some leads and we're investigating those.
We did have a subject that was going around committing burglaries back in February, and he was taken into custody. But this wasn't in the east part of town. This is more, I guess, area
Northwest.
3, northwest part of town. So
Oh yeah, everything.
he was involved in about 6 or 7 not home invasions, more of residential burglaries, and 2 of those were people were home, so they became hot prowls. So yeah, that person was taken into custody, yes.
Thank you. Okay, looking at the questions, you're probably not going to have all of this information, but a person wants to know, how are package thefts categorized? A person was reported as a thief and was allowed to wander the streets while several calls to the police were made. Why was he not arrested? Several posts were made on the app Nextdoor with clear images of this person. I made one of those calls. So I'm thinking that's difficult to answer without us knowing the specific incident.
Yeah, I mean, each case is different. I don't know. Like my partner said, the process that happens when we get these calls with our dispatch, they'll call patrol. Patrol goes out there and investigates, then takes the initial investigation, and then we get the follow-up, or we get to do the follow-up. However, I don't know how that day was. I don't know if we were busy doing something else. I just don't know. There's a variety of things that could have happened that could have prevented an officer going out there and checking the area. And sometimes we do check the area. Normally, we won't necessarily, when patrol officers get dispatched to a call, we don't go straight to where the caller is calling from. We try to check the area, description of a car that have, because a lot of times we're getting the call 5-7 minutes late. So we're trying to check the surrounding area to see and work our way in to see if we see the vehicle. But to answer that, I really don't. There could have been numerous reasons. There's numerous reasons why that the police officers couldn't have got there to investigate it right away. And then as far as the detective side, we handle follow-up. If there's video cameras, if there's witnesses, if there's vehicles, detectives are going to be handling it. It just takes a while to get witnesses to cooperate, call people, to get video, request video. People are busy just like us. So a lot of times when we request it, they don't get back to us till Saturday night or Sunday morning, and we're not working at the time. So it just takes some time. And every case is different, like I said.
The next question is probably best for the Hope team. Unfortunately, we don't have the Hope team with us, but maybe service area Lieutenant Ortiz is familiar with this. What is being done about the homeless encampment by Dunn Edwards? It continues to grow in size with lots of trash. There are several bikes in this encampment. Can police investigate these to see if they are stolen?
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right. I'm away in training right now, so excuse my my dress code here. But yes, there's plenty we can do. We have a couple of street-based programs. We have our Hope team and our Port program. They're both outreach programs that assist with the mental health. And but by all means, if you, as the saying goes, if you see something, say something. Let us know. We do have some jurisdictional components here, and a lot of times these encampments, they kind of blossom on the Caltrans side of the freeways, which actually becomes their jurisdiction. But in any case, we do put our officers out there, and if we have any encampments, and unfortunately they're popping up at different areas of the city, so we try to keep tabs on when and where they are and identify who they are, and we'll send our units out there to address the issues. So by all means, like I said, if you do have any of these encampments that are popping up out of areas, let us know. We have an increase in the larger, we just had Home Depot that just opened up a week or two ago. So we're drawing a lot of attention on this part of the town, especially along the Foothill and Colorado corridor. And with that comes a lot of the homeless population that frequents these areas. So it's something that we have to pay attention to. It's something that I have to pay attention to. And if there's something that needs to be addressed, by all means, reach out to me. And Sarah has my information. Thank you.
Thank
To
you.
add to some of that information, Sarah, thank you, Lieutenant Ortiz. I'll check with our neighborhood services section. Part of our reorganization last year, we expanded Hope team to have a bicycle team, a park safety specialist team that have over 15 people working that unit. And part of this was to try to stay on top of the encampments, reduce them to make sure that we get rid of some of the trash and the health concerns, as well as reduce the calls for service that have been clumped up. We have a few examples already of reducing the large amount of calls for service to some areas. So I'll make sure they look at DUNS. I'll put some money on it that they probably are aware of it. And we'll add it to the area for them to go out and do the outreach, but also do the cleanup as they need to over there. Again, they track these pretty well. Their response is pretty quick. There was one I got a couple nights ago over on Allen and Villa, and they cleaned it up that same night during the night hours. So for this one, Sarah, we can do a follow-up to make sure we get at this problem. Whoever the person who sent the question in, they should send you an email over the next week to make sure we got rid of the problem or not. All righty?
Okay, I'll put my contact info back up on the screen towards the end of the meeting. Let's see, the next person asks, have you considered etch and catch catalytic converter ID labeling? Ventura County Sheriff uses it to etch your license plate number and paint a sheriff's star on your catalytic converter free of charge. Detectives, have you heard anything about that?
I actually have not heard of that. So I'm not familiar with any of that etching of the catalytic converters.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's something we're not familiar with, but I will pass that information on up, and that's something we'll try to look into.
Sure.
So a person has asked, several homeowners have requested adding cameras to our neighborhood. Please speak on this. Does it help police? How? Absolutely install surveillance cameras. They are incredibly helpful to us. Say your neighbor gets burglarized and your camera catches the plate number of the suspect, or say there are a string of package thefts in your neighborhood. Well, the footage might not necessarily show the person's face, but maybe they're wearing a identifiable hoodie, and we can link that person to multiple crimes. So we are very big advocates of surveillance cameras. They are extremely helpful. So yes, getting surveillance cameras definitely has my stamp of approval.
But Sarah, I'm going to add to that, that if you're going to spend the money on doing that, please get good camera pixels, because it really helps out as far as, license plates and stuff like that. So if you're going to do it, spend the money and get a good system.
I'll agree with the detective on that. And I'll add to it. You also have to get these camera systems working for you. If you just put them up and expect them to work the way you want, you'll be disappointed. Knowing how they work, where you have them pointed, the motion of it all, many people will turn them off after a while because they get so many. So trying to really manage the sensitivity and understanding of how it gets recorded, how long, all these things become very, very critical for our detectives, that sometimes they get somewhere and they find out the information's been erased or it wasn't provided, or the cameras really become sometimes of some level of annoyance for residents as they get a lot of alerts and they stop looking at their cameras. So those are all things they have to try to manage as they purchase them and they have them as well.
Thank you. So the next question here, no one on this call is probably going to know this without checking to see if there were any calls for service. There have been large boom sounds like an M80 in the neighborhood. There was one today at approximately 12:30 p.m. at Foothill and Rosemead. Did the police have an idea what these noises are or who is causing them? My initial guess is fireworks, even though July is still a ways away. Right now, because we're in the middle of a meeting, I don't have a way of checking the calls for service to see if there were any calls that came in. But you're always welcome to give our non-emergency dispatch number a call, ask if any calls have been placed, or if they happen to know what the sound was.
So, on that one, we over the last couple of months, I've noticed we have gotten firework calls during the day on the East End, on the east side, probably in the 2100 block of East Villa, as I've been hearing a few of these calls come out. We don't usually get any more information other than the noise. So whether it's somebody throwing fireworks, firecrackers, M80 out the window, I don't know. But we're not getting enough information for us to know where it's coming from. The officers get there. When we do have a shots fired call, it's a little bit different as to how it's reported. We'll get different type of calls. We'll find some casings or something else out in the scene. So I have noticed over the last few months there has probably somebody or some people tossing these devices around the area based on what we're hearing. So we just need better information. I'll tell you, respond. We do have very fast response times. It's the fastest response times I've seen in about 20 years. Priority 1 responses get about a 3-minute and 20-second response to emergencies. Non-emergencies might see up to 5 to 8 minutes. So that amount of time for an officer to get to a scene, usually everybody's gone and we have anonymous people who report. It's just a matter of trying to get a lot of detail when people do call us.
Thank you. We only have about 10 more minutes and we have a lot of questions. I'm going to try to get through as many of these as possible. Chief, here's a question you may be able to answer. Why doesn't Pasadena PD have officers walk residential neighborhoods or even commercial areas? Also, are there plans to open a substation in District 4, particularly in Upper Hastings area or Upper Hastings Ranch?
So we don't have any plans to open up any satellite offices up that way. I think keeping officers mobile in the field is more important. Whenever you create satellite offices, there's an expectation the officers will be there in the offices, maintaining them. But we'd rather have our officers visible in neighborhoods, driving around, covering more street. We got 300 miles of street in Pasadena, and keeping officers visible in as many places as possible is what prevents crime. Trying to be out there before a crime occurs is most important. When it comes to footbeat and getting out of the car, the officers do conduct it more than we all know. We probably don't see them enough out there if you're in the neighborhood. But if you look at the Home Depot, for example, the officers have been out there already 27 times on their own, walking through the area. And so the officers do get out on foot. Not enough. What you will be seeing over the next few months is our community services section will be, in fact, coming into neighborhoods and walking neighborhoods, knocking on doors and introducing themselves to residents and asking them about neighborhood problems we could focus on. So that's going to be very important. The volume of calls for Pasadena is about 350 calls for service per day, which is a lot. It used to be much higher in the years past. And it is a challenge to keep officers moving throughout the city on these calls for service. As we get out of the pandemic, we do have to realize that the average number of cars prior to the pandemic in Pasadena is about 1 million cars per day. And that was given to me by the Department of Transportation, which is crazy. The number of people in our town, they tell me that the population doubles beyond 300,000 people during the day. So that means we have a high commerce. People have an interest of coming to Pasadena to have lunch, to shop, to use the parks. Our Rose Bowl facility, when it comes to walking, is one of the top areas in the entire region people use to get out. So with that in mind, the officers are best served driving through areas as much as they can. We do like them to stop and get out of the cars when possible. It's just not always that simple for us to do that. I know the frustration of being a half a mile from your car or a quarter mile and having to run back for a call for service that's an emergency. So it is a balance of how officers approach that task. We'd like to see more of it. They would like to do more of it. I think walking the neighborhoods with community services is going to give us some pretty good outreach coming soon.
Thank you. Here's a question for our detectives. On the Landfair burglary, were they able to enter the home and steal anything, harm the owner? Any pictures of the suspects? Any leads?
Okay, so the Landfair burglary was actually the knock burglary. An elderly female was inside. They knocked 3 or 4 times. at the front door and went to the rear, and they did not hurt the owner. It looks like there was nothing missing, and the damage was to the front door. Was there anything more, Sarah, on that question? Oh, leads. The Landfair Burglary is actually the one where we were able to lift a partial fingerprint, and that was sent to the lab. So we are working on that. She actually did have security, and an audible alarm that was set. So she did have that. And then all her windows and doors were secured and locked.
Lieutenant Ortiz, you'll probably know this. Is there an increase in patrol to these neighborhoods due to the residential burglaries?
Yes, the message has been sent. I'm one of 4 watch commanders that covers the 7-day work week. So the message has been sent to our troops to provide the extra service to maintain visibility. And so we have, obviously the day side crimes that occur during business hours. And then we also have night side crimes that occur, with these criminals and who are taking these opportunities to, do these thefts. So we have been putting units out there, and that's the message we send. As a watch commander or lieutenant in patrol, I have service area officers that are dedicated to different parts of the city. So I hold them accountable to go out there and pay attention to their neighborhoods, their areas, and report back to me. So yes, that's something that we do all the time.
Thank you. Here's another question for the detectives. Do you guys happen to know, of the 6 burglaries that have occurred in Area 4 so far this year, how many were in Upper Hastings Ranch? Do you guys have that information available?
Yeah, it was 3. So there were 6 total, and 3 of them were in Hastings, to include those 2 invasions. So there was 3 total.
Thank you. And I don't know if you'll have this information, but one person asked, several people have posted on nextdoor.com that they think the uptick in crime is related to our neighborhood holiday light up. Is there any correlation?
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have no way of knowing if there is a correlation or not. Chief, could you clarify how many officers per 100 people now as compared to 2020 and 2019?
It's been the same the last 2 years. I couldn't tell you the exact number. I'd have to sit down and figure it out for 100 people. But our numbers have maintained the same over those 2 years. The bigger issue for me is really recruitment, getting officers. I mean, if I wanted to hire, I'll give you an example, 10 officers today, and I wanted to see them out in the field, it would take me about 2.5 years to see those officers today. By the time we set up for testing in a few months, we go through their testing process. We put them into a 6-month academy. We're looking at 1.5 years. We put them at training for 6 months. We're looking at 2 years. And that's just to get them on their first day without a training partner. So you could see the importance of us maintaining a good workforce when it comes to the ability to keep them here and not lose them to other agencies. The workplace inside the department has to be top notch, trying to work towards that, whether it be vehicles, whether it be compensation, to be competitive. All those things have to be on top. So before I want more officers, I want the ones to have to be absolutely enjoying work with Pasadena and have the support that they need. Because having a lot of officers and having, as I've seen it in the years past, 20, 30 vacancies does not do us any good. So trying to maintain the numbers we have is important. I like single number vacancy rates that we've had for the last 2-3 years. I want to maintain that and do the best that we can. We have a long list of people who are applying for Pasadena. We have 50 people on laterals from other agencies and a list of 250 people that want to come in. So it's a matter of how quick we can do their backgrounds and get them working here at the Pasadena Police Department.
Thank you. Detectives, do you happen to know approximately what percentage of Pasadena residential burglaries result in an arrest and ideally a prosecution?
I don't know the exact percentage, no. Yeah, we normally don't work the residential crime. We're more of a commercial, but I have not looked at the stats for that. I apologize.
Chief, with all of the recent shootings in the city, what is being done to replace the activities of the disbanded gang unit?
So when we talk about disbanding the gang unit, I think a lot of people just thought we stopped doing this type of work. We've changed our model. Everything in life, everything in the police department has a shelf life. And we have to be smart enough and good enough to change that model. Policing is something where every day you have to build your skill set. It's not something that you could, easily get out of shape, not go to the range, not train, not understand investigations, not read literature to be better at investigations. So what we've done is we've used the ability to use data and science behind knowing who our active criminals are, who our gang members are, who are the ones we believe are carrying guns, and where they're carrying guns. We've seized 83 guns this year already. We seized 288 last year. And so we know that we have to take these guns off the street. When we get to this point, you have to realize we've gone past the point of prevention, intervention. Any prevention and intervention we do today is to stop the next cycle of violence in 2-3 years from now. What we need to do now is catch the people who are committing this crime. And it's already a failure when we're at that point. We're left with enforcement, and we have to do traffic stops. I spent 7 years in the gang unit since the 1980s all the way through the 90s to the 2000s. So I understand that the model needed to be updated. Instead of throwing a big blanket over a community and seeing who we could stop, where it's more like cancer surgery to go into a body and remove the cancerous cells without damaging everything else around. We have 100% Latino and Black gangs in our community. We don't have Asian gangs, Armenian gangs, or white gangs, any type of activity with those. So it's unfortunate that our focus has to be on Black and Latino gangs. It's very unfortunate. To go out and throw a net and pull people in is not proper for us to find out how many people might be gang members. I want our stops to be very precise to understand who we're looking at, who we think might have a gun, and who we know is a gang member. And it's a very careful place to be. I did read one of the postings about BLM and what we're doing to try to, regarding the protest, what have we changed in the police department? It's a very difficult place when we put in a lot of training, a lot of outreach, a lot of implicit bias, cognitive training to reduce our use of force, which is happening, reduce how we're using force, and the applications are very important that we do it well, and that's happening. When it comes to officer-involved shootings and people with guns, I worry for the next incident. You don't take 83 guns off the street this year and think that was all done just, it was lucky nothing happened. The officers are using de-escalation, communication. They're doing outstanding work in seizing these weapons. It only takes a fraction for somebody not to be cooperative. And we come into a situation where whatever happens at the end of that incident, the police department will be responsible for it. There's usually two parts of any single incident for people to understand, Sarah. One is the incident, which might be an investigative stop, a traffic stop, or a field contact that begins. And when somebody becomes uncooperative, then we have a second incident that begins to occur. And these are tragic sometimes, and trying to avoid those would be for us to stop doing this type of police work. Yet we have assault rifles being used. We had a 10-year-old recently shot. We've had a number of Latino people that were shot and killed who are not gang members, and we believe they might have been targeted, and there's no gang history in their backgrounds. So we got some very serious human issues we have to resolve. And at the core of it, it will always be the police department that we are in fact responsible. At the end of the day, people hold me responsible, and I take responsibility for every one of my officers and all that they do, and we'll continue to do that. There's no easy resolution. In doing this job for 35 years, this has always been a problem in policing, to find a balance in trying to avoid these type of incidents from happening. So we do have to be better, but the community also has to do their part in understanding how dangerous taking guns off the street can be. So I'm just lucky to have the group of officers that I have in the organization and the type of work that they do.
Thank you. We are running out of time and questions are still pouring in. One person wanted to ask Gene or Noreen if you have any updates on the COVID-19 variants in Pasadena.
Sarah, at our last meeting, when Dr. Goh was in front of us, the numbers have been dropping. And we're really pleased about that. And that's why we're opening up restaurants and other venues to get things back to normal. But we're doing it slowly and to make sure that we do it the right way so that we don't have another bounce in having COVID-19 in the community. So we're trying to just do it in a way that we're being careful, but at the same time, start opening up so that we can be normal again.
Thank you. Here's a question for the detectives. We had someone come to our door offering window cleaning services. Was that part of the MO for any of the other burglaries?
No.
So like I said, we work mainly commercial. So our division's broken up into commercial, residential, and then auto. And we just happen to work commercial. However, our residential detective wasn't able to make it today, so we stepped in. But for the most part, we kind of know what's going on based on MOs that are going on with the type of crime. We talk amongst each other, we brief each other, but I have not heard of that type of MO before, so it hasn't crossed my mind. Maybe it has, if the detective can elaborate on it, but for me, I have not heard about it.
Let's see here. One person was asking about the two burglaries the other day and how they were a few hours apart, and asking why I say they were unrelated. I said they were unrelated because they have different suspects. It's not the same suspects. Chief, here's a question for you. How is the PPD addressing issues raised by BLM protests, training, resources, resource allocation, etc.?
Yeah, so prior to the protests and the social justice movement in 2019, we were already working towards that and looking for new models, as I talked about before, with gang enforcement, how we were doing outreach intervention, as well as internal training. So this is not something that started as a result of 2020 for us. This is something that started before that. But at the end of the day, we're always going to be challenged by a singular incident of somebody possessing a handgun or some of these incidents that happen. So we are doing training. We see tremendous outcomes from the type of skills the officers are putting into de-escalation. We're tracking de-escalation on the police radio, something that we started last July, and we have about 600-700 incidents of de-escalation. We have incidents of guns being taken without incident. We have wrestling matches where the officers are able to take people into custody without injury. So we are seeing a lot of good outcome. The unfortunate part is because we're coming into a violent period of time for our society. It's the largest increase in violent crime in our history from one year to another. We've had a 35% increase in violent crime from 2019 to 2020. The overall crime still remains historically low, but the fact there's a 35% increase triples the amount of increase from 12% in previous years. What that means to us, if this level of crime across the country continues for 2, 3, 4 years, we will not have enough resources. I saw this in the late 80s when we had almost a homicide a week in Pasadena, and somebody was shot with a handgun or an assault rifle every couple of days. And living through that experience in the 80s was horrible for many of us as young officers. So I understand we come into these dynamics and we're getting to this point again. We are trying to be as visible as we can with as many officers, trying new models to reduce all this. So the efforts of social justice is important. We're listening, we're learning, we're applying new methods. Much of this was happening before, but there's still reform to have. Pasadena, as a chief, I have a Chiefs Advisory Committee that was made prior to 2020 of people that are served as activists for our city. And I do listen to their recommendations. We do have a police oversight coming and an auditor coming as well. So we have a lot of oversight along with the public safety. This department, this police chief probably has more oversight than any other police department anywhere in the region. There's 18,000 police departments, 12,000 municipal police departments, and maybe 200 or 300 have one form of oversight, where Pasadena will have 3 or 4. It could be dynamic for us to make sure that's managed in the proper way. So we're making a lot of good progress, and we have for the last 2-3 years. So it's not something that's happened just because of social justice, but we are listening to what's happening now with social justice. A couple of points really quick, Sarah, to hit a couple of questions. People asked about private security. Private security is always good. If people want to look at private security for neighborhoods, there's nothing wrong with that. We work well with private security. It's a good way to balance what they want. As we get into the summertime, we're going to see more people at the top of Hastings. That's always a concern. I'll make sure this is put into our service area policing so officers can drive up there often. They're trying to drive a new service area model. So officers know in advance when they go out in the field, they'll have hotspot areas to go out to make sure that we're reducing this. We've tried this on the west end, on the Bird Bath Park. It's actually been very, very positive. We went from getting a few calls a week to now we almost get no calls for service over there because the young people realize we're going to be out there. So one of the things you have to do is call us when you can, and we have the responsibility of checking. In another few weeks, we're going to be into the warmer weather, and we're going to see some of these issues. So the concerns somebody wrote in about the concerns with fire and these type of other issues are important to us. Our new fire chief, Chad Augustine, he is in our helicopter working with us, and we're working on a fire mitigation plan. So our helicopters are checking these areas more often as we get into a fire season that seems to be earlier and earlier for us. So I'm always concerned with Hastings Ranch and the areas up there. I do recall the fires we had in the 90s. If anybody recalls those, they were horrific for us trying to rescue people and move people out of neighborhoods, especially with the mudslides that came the following year with the rains. So some of us have been through it, and we understand it. So I am tracking that for the neighborhoods to know that's part of what I'm doing.
Thank you. So with that, we are out of time. If we did not get to your question, I apologize. I am putting my contact info up on your screen. Feel free to email me your question. And while I don't know everything, I do know everybody who works here. So I will work on getting that answer for you. Also on the screen is the contact info for Lieutenant Mario Ortiz, who is your service area lieutenant for Area 4. And then if it's something for Gene or Noreen, I have Noreen's contact information down at the bottom. She is the District 4 field representative. So I'll leave that up for a moment, but thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight. And thank you, detectives. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you, Gene and Noreen. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules to join us for this meeting tonight. So
thank you very much. I want to thank all of you. Sam DeSilva's down there as well, I see. So I want to thank him for working with our office as well to set up this webinar.
Thank you, council member. And Sarah, for the questions that weren't answered, if they're service area related, can you get them over to Commander Art Schutz so we can follow up on those and put them on our list so the residents know we are following up on these problem locations and the visibility and prevention issues we need.
Will do.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you very much.